His Camille getting smashed pretty hard in 9.3 meant that he's struggling to find an identity that is beyond his incredibly powerful Camille play. See whether they are going to move to something different as we hit the champion select for game number 1. Blue side held by SANDBOX as mentioned before, and they're going to ban the Yasuo here up against KT. KT can flex that one basically everywhere, so pretty happy to see that one gone, and Lucian, of course, is going to be hitting the bench.
We'll probably see KT follow this up with Ezreal and Cassiopeia. And now Lissandra taken away by SANDBOX, given that KT does have counter pick option, and so depending on how SANDBOX would want to draft with an engage comp, maybe don't want to have anything go on there. But instead of an Ezreal or Cassiopeia ban, we see a Lee Sin.
Well, the thing is, I don't necessarily look at Ghost as your quintessential Ezreal player. He's played one game of Ezreal so far, and he has not died on it. And he's, of course, won the game because SANDBOX hasn't done a lot of losing. But maybe that's what KT are thinking. They're thinking they'll throw the gauntlet. The Thresh is going to be banned here. It's been a blue side ban for a lot of our teams. On this patch, he's pretty damn strong towards the bottom side of the map. And there's the Jace ban. So the Ezreal gauntlet has been thrown here by KT.
Okay, well, let's see. I mean, Cassiopeia is also open and available, and Summit does strike me as the type of person that would be able to pilot it.
That's true. That's a three-way flex pretty much truly there, and Ghost has already played the champion. Dove's played it twice.
What?
Oh no. Oh no.
Not
stay,
like this.
Stay.
We talked about this.
Oh god.
Oh.
Okay, well, Aatrox is going to be locked in.
Okay, well, alright, KT now hovering and locking in the Zoe.
Well, that looks like they've looked at the tier list a little bit more intently than SANDBOX have this week, I believe. As Zoe has certainly been tearing people apart. Faker very outspoken about how good his Zoe is, and we saw Chovy need not actually talk about it at all, because his demonstration of his mastery of the champion has been absolutely outstanding. Aren't you going to lock away the Nocturne?
I'm not entirely sure why you would show the Nocturne face up this early on into the draft. I mean, Ezreal's still available. SANDBOX would really appreciate, you know, having some faith in humanity restored by locking it in. Alongside the LeBlanc, so that you get basically 2 counter picks to the way that KT is drafting right now.
I feel like Ezreal not being picked by KT was extra weird because Ezreal Zoe has been proven as a phenomenal carry combination.
It's a very disgusting late game flexible comp that only really dies if the opponent manages to get a hold of Baron, but it's really hard to get a hold of Baron, especially against a red side Zoe and Ezreal that have the safety of their own red side jungle.
What patch is SANDBOX playing on?
And I think someone needs to get them the patch notes.
Whew. Okay, well, I mean, if there's any player that's going to keep playing Camille, I would say that it's on Fleek. And of course, the change to the hookshot not stunning monsters just means that she's a little less healthy in the jungle, but still has that skirmish capability, can still get all the things done that she likes to do. So we'll see whether OnFleek has any changes to how he builds her, how he paths, and things like that in order to mitigate what has been some pretty hard-hitting nerfs onto the Camille. Otherwise, I mean, outside of this particular pick, we haven't seen anything else here in the LCK of the Camille. The Urgot going to be locked in there for Smeb or BDD in theory, but it will most likely be going over to Smeb. Unless they're flexing the Zoe on the bottom side. Haven't seen what Zenit's been playing, but, you know, maybe he has some funny business in store.
Well, Galio now being banned away, so I guess not wanting to face off against the support Galio coupled with that Camille jungle, that can definitely make for a lot of scary engages. Although, you do have the Nocturne Paranoia, but I guess the support Galio is always going to be hugging his AD carry.
Yeah.
Compared to a mid Galio that might just be off-splitting or planted in another lane.
Interesting also that they've banned away the Galio when they could have just picked it into the support position if they would like to.
Yeah.
The Braum going to be banned away here by SANDBOX.
Especially because you could have had Galio Nocturne on the same team.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Backed with the Ezreal or backed with the Zoe and the Urgot. I mean, you might even still be able to get to Ezreal, and that actually would have been a very scary team composition, I think, that KT could have had access to. And SANDBOX banning away the Braum, which I think is actually a champion that they would like to utilize against the Nocturne engage, but
theoretically, 5
Tahm
supports
Kench is
now
still
being banned.
Yeah.
Tahm Kench is the only one really standing out.
Tahm Kench is definitely still standing out. He does have, obviously, a lot of potency against the Camille, but other than that, not so much yet, especially not going in blind. You know, you're really losing me here, Atlas.
Hey, it's not me, man.
I think
Come
I'm
on,
beginning to
I'm on
break up.
SANDBOX's
Yep.
wild ride with you,
Yeah,
all right? This
all right.
is SANDBOX's wild ride taking on KT. I mean, I think you can't get any more fitting than that, as Tom Kench is going to be the pickup here from KT. Understandable one there, but having the Ezreal now available, if SANDBOX don't pick it, I think both of our brains are going to explode. So for us,
Shen?
that is something that would be very nice of you. Okay, Shen without the option of the Vladimir, because SANDBOX have actually banned that one away. Often you see it paired with the Vlad. Not that it's a good lane, just means that once you get out into the mid-game, things feel a whole lot better, because Vlad can be so much more self-sufficient. Hanging around somewhere else while Stand United is utilized. There is a Sivir, and that's going to be locked in by Ghost. Doesn't feel like the guy to pick up an Ezreal, and certainly has been proven just there.
Well, now you have the last pick option available as KT, and
is there a gentleman's is there a global Ezreal ban? Like, I'm very perplexed.
I think I just heard the Korean caster actually mention Ezreal.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like you should be mentioning Ezreal at the moment, as Jinx would have been a great pickup into the Sivir, has been a counter pick for a very long time, but then it goes back to the tried and true. The Kai'Sa's going to be picked up. Saw a Blade of the Ruin King version by Viper in our last series, which was very fun, but BF Sword, double pickaxe that we've seen rise to popularity means that you get a very early Q evolve and does help her get online a little bit sooner in these games. KT, I do like their composition based on the power level of all these champions. They can work very well together. They've got a lot of pick opportunities, and they can skirmish post 6 on Umpty pretty easily with their double globals that they have available to them. So KT with a lot of tools, SANDBOX with a lot of picks that have fallen out of favor on the top side of the map, but otherwise, you know, Sivir in a very good spot at the moment, and Shen being able to piggyback on any ganks that KT put forward. I like both of the compositions, even if SANDBOX seem like they're living in an alternate reality where we're behind a few patches.
We're going to take one last look at them before we hop into the game. Talk about what both are really trying to achieve here. Aatrox, Camille, LeBlanc, Sivir, and Eshen out of the side for right here.
S-Hen.
And what's going on here is obviously they want to explode early on. Camille wants to get ahead. LeBlanc wants to get ahead. Sivir, she's mostly being used for her utility, not for the scaling component, which is really interesting dynamic for this team comp. This team needs to end this game early on. They can't go as late against this KT composition, which fields the Urgot, Nocturne, Zoe, Kai'Sa, and Tom Kench. Definitely a much bigger scaling component out of this team. Explosive level 6 ability, and obviously the Abyssal Voyage being able to come in at level 6 and help out with any sort of paranoia plays that they want to make. And then obviously Zoe being the big question mark that can just flip a game on its head at any point.
Yeah. Really does feel like the wild card on the side of KT, but their composition based on tier list certainly looks better. Let's see whether they can pilot it well as we hit the Rift. Oh man, KT fans, there's an air of desperation in their voices in the LoL Park tonight. They're desperate for this squad to find their feet again. We've all felt it. I know that there are a whole lot of KT fans in Twitch chat at the moment that are just getting nervous about seeing a team composition that looks strong. And they're like, do I get excited? And the answer, guys, is no.
To be honest, I mean, if we're just talking team compositions, if we're assuming an even level of play, I would honestly give the edge to KT here.
Oh, absolutely.
So SANDBOX, I mean, coming out the gate in game number 1 with the draft, making me very nervous. I mean, if they do get ahead, it's very, very difficult for this KT team composition to stabilize, and then it mostly becomes, Zoe, please save us.
Yeah.
And if that's a little difficult to do against the LeBlanc and the Camille being able to lock her down even through the Tom Kench.
To KT's credit, though, BDD has been in that position all season. So, I mean, it's not like he's a stranger to being the man that has to carry, and his Zoe has always been good, be it 2018 or 2019. But up against the LeBlanc, we've seen this be a matchup that can go one of two ways. We'll see how it does go for KT, as Dove has been having a pretty good time here in the LCK so far. Joker going to be checking up here. No vision available here on Umpty. He needs to finish off that Gromp real fast before OnFleek just dives on top of him. Hookshot will be available, and that will stun a Nocturne, unless he does have the spell shield.
And thanks to G-Host on that Sivir down there in bottom lane.
Yeah.
With the priority on Fleek able to come in here with the assistance of Joker and pick up the Scuttle Crab. And now everyone's playing with map hacks on Nocturne. And you can see that they actually stunted Umti's route as well to boot. Clear out that... Whoa, that didn't look like it hit. That was some Batman.
That was some sweet visual bug action as Dove
Yeah.
shorts the distortion there just a little bit. A lot of buttons going a little bit astray. But that's what SANDBOX like to do. They like to press them as many times as they possibly can. And look, if you take a whole lot of shots, generally you're going to hit one. That's how life works. If at first you don't succeed, try again is the SANDBOX motto. Non-Fleet going to be able to grab a second Rift Scuttler there as well. And look, if you don't stun the mobs, they can't do damage to you if they don't do damage to you. So you may as well take double Scuttle. It's a good way of looking like pre-nerf Camille.
And what we're witnessing right here, Atlas, is how many junglers last season increased their LP by about 400. Running around the map is a level 3 Camille with a red buff, looking for the enemy.
And mid lane has priority. Top lane does not, which means that Smeb gets the first rotation down. But Umti being spied by that, the cone. We'll have to move away from his red buff. The Krog's going to get started, and OnFleek hasn't finished just yet. So this is how you mitigate the nerfs to hookshot. Apparently,
You just don't farm.
yeah, don't farm. Farm the champion instead, as Umti's going to get tactical swept.
Whoa!
And throws the smite out on a Krog camp, meaning that he won't have it for the red buff, and he's going to get 3 buffed.
Well, in doing so, I mean, he does get the rubber band reset on his golems going. And remember, he did already clear some camps, and he has good rubber band camps coming up. So even though he gets 3 camp, Camille's falling back to her jungle, which is all just level 1 camps. And now she's not going to have the ability to do anything. I really like what OnFleek was doing, acknowledging, hey, I can't just take up a straight up, I can't take a straight up farming fest against this Nocturne. I have to look to apply pressure. I have to give LeBlanc the freedom to try to exert dominance over the Zoe. And I have to make sure that nothing goes too wrong for Aatrox up in top lane early.
Yeah.
So credit to him, but Nocturne's still ahead after all of this.
Well, we'll see whether OnFleek is going to continue, because you mentioned the rubber band camps. There's a chance OnFleek just comes and invades them too. Tries to steal them away, and then, look, Umti goes into his enemy's jungle, and everything's level 1 and having a terrible time. Joker comes on over, spots him out there as OnFleek's going to go back home. Has got himself a slight advantage here by taking a couple of extra camps. And that is the 3-buff double Scuttle coming in here. A score special of last year, but now he's up against Umti. Feels like the nameplates, as far as the team is concerned, makes that an iconic point, but based on the opposition this time around, it's not as relevant.
You can see one of the predicaments here that Camille is in. Not the best of situations. Your mid laner's recalling no mana. You don't have enough priority with Zoe returning into mid to just go over to the Scuttle Crab and contest it. So definitely having a little bit of a reliance on bottom lane, and I'm pretty sure this means Umti just gets the Scuttle Crab, and this is really unfortunate, and this is a byproduct of what was happening in mid leading up to this.
Well, Umti's going to be able to get that spell shield out. He loses out on the health trade as Terrify being held on to. He used it already, as now Joker's hanging around. Ghost uses the heal as OnFleek, trying to get the hell out of here. Zenit wants to find this kill, and Joker looks to be the first option. Burns to death as PDD grabs first blood. And if there's ever a thing to be scared of, it's a fed PDD in the early game for KT.
Yeah, and this game is starting off really, really rough for SANDBOX. And we talked about how their team comp needed to get ahead. Well, the Camille keeps falling down to the Nocturne. And the LeBlanc is not accruing the type of advantage that she would want early on. Top lane, gentleman's agreement. Much like the gentleman's agreement to not pan or pick Ezreal. And right here, we can see OnFleek, he's trying to go on to Umti. Snowflower able to be there. And then again, because of the mid priority, the way it was working, BDD able to collapse Flirt first. Very surprised Snowflower doesn't flash onto OnFleek to get OnFleek's flash, because Snowflower has Spellbook available. So the flash is a little bit more valuable. Just little nitpick.
Yeah, little nitpick. But yeah, but I think still probably a good move from KT, and Snowflower having more summoner spells. Feels good. Grabbing that kill already. Means now Zenit and Snowflower with a lot of priority on the bottom side. They've both got teleports, and they choose they don't even need to use them, as it is in fact the same thinking as Viper. And this is exactly what CV Max says in his interview. that Griffin are trying to pave the way for a new breed of LCK. Well, copying Viper's build is step one. I like that from Zenit.
Well, I do like that as well. The attack speed is obviously very nice to have, and the Boar Captive does make pretty good ability to peel away from opponents.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many ultra tanky members there are going to be on the side of SANDBOX. Feels like basically only Shen.
Yeah, Shen, and, well, Atrox does end up picking up the Black Cleaver.
Yeah, builds a fair bit of health.
Yeah.
But
And
not exactly
Camille
a health stacking team that
right,
you think is quintessential. That's all right. Play the Ruin King. Pretty good item anyway.
Now, I mean, the blue buff handoff for Zoe, and Camille being forced to path to the left-hand side of the map. Bottom lane has priority. Right-hand side, Scuttle Crab is coming up. I think that they can just consume that. Smeb able to crash down that wave, look for a roam mid. This stuff can easily convert into a dragon. If not now, then most likely when LeBlanc goes for the blue handoff, we could see a 4-man bottom play or a dragon pickup.
Yeah, and that's priority in 3 lanes, having a Nocturne at level 6 as well. So as far as all of the good news stories for SANDBOX, they're almost entirely over when it comes to the weaknesses that KT were going to have in the early stages of the game. This Camille pick, I mean, I thought maybe OnFleek could make something happen anyway just because he was such a good Camille player. But it looks to me like the way that he's played this out, trying to work around the nerf, hasn't really worked out.
Do you think that LeBlanc's clothes are made out of Zoe's hair?
Let me have a look at it next time.
Yeah, we're gonna need a quick look at that. The Observer's not giving it to us right yet, but
I mean, I don't blame the Observers a massive amount because it's not exactly the highest priority thing on the map right now, but I am also curious as Umpty is going to face check Camille.
take a look at this right here.
Hey, yeah, the little wings.
Yeah, that's
That's very cute.
That's
That's a
adorable.
teleport from
There you
a Tom Kench, as I believe OnFleek actually has that information. But speaking of having information, KT, don't walk into the forest alone, Umpty, and he doesn't. Takes BDD with him. He had a catfish in his back pocket, and that means OnFleek has to on-sleek his way out of there. And he's going to go hand over his blue buff to Dove. And Umpty's just going to continue going wherever he wants and being able to take whatever he wants.
Now here's the blue handoff timing, but we can see that Nocturne not on the right-hand side of the map. And so the Mountain Drake is going to be able to live for quite a while longer as Zoe is looking to reset.
Yeah, but look at all that vision around that Mountain Drake as well for KT. KT understanding that grabbing that Drake would feel pretty damn good. They can get into these early big objectives, and they do a lot of damage after a couple of items have come in. For Zenit, especially if you've got this Blade of the Ruin King build, for the Kai'Sa, it upgrades her ability to destroy Baron a little bit higher.
And, well, Smeb now maybe going to be able to coordinate some sort of a play here onto Summit. I mean, Nocturne's in close proximity. Summit still doesn't know about it. It looks like they don't want to go for this.
Yeah, first Paranoia not opted into yet for MT. As Joker comes over, spots out exactly where the Tom Kench is, and as far as other level 6s that are very important to note are concerned, Joker has his, so Stand United available and can be utilized around this map. So it might be very, very hard to gank Summit because he has World Ender to keep him alive and then a Stand United from a Shen to deliver a teammate over to him. So if I was Umpty, I'd be focusing elsewhere. BDD heads back towards this mid lane. He's going to continue farming things out. Dove, having that extra time available to him, was able to stretch that lead. It's nothing to really write home about. First Blood is going to keep BDD with a slight advantage.
And this is a growing worrying trend here in the LCK. I feel like most games are nothing is happening at all for the first like 15, 20 minutes. It's not even a generic Green Wings game anymore. This is just a very common trend that keeps occurring.
Have you seen the win rate of Zach here in the LCK? It's quite high. I wonder why, LS? I mean,
Well,
there's cause and effect, and I feel like Zach is an example of both. It's like games are going slow, well, we may as well pick Zach. And it's been working out quite well. The Nocturne is another example of that. We've seen actually Nocturne banned a fair few times against other players, and we saw Tarzan use it to brilliant effect earlier on today. And obviously he's been a great Nocturne player in the past. So that's a few different variables in order to want to keep him, as BDD comes on over, wants to try and steal this one out of the way. Stand United going to be used on Fleek. Tries to get the stun, but won't actually land it. Devour from Snowflower gets him over there as SANDBOX do lock down the Rift Herald. Smeb comes in and just eats the Camille for breakfast. Joker gonna get tagged up there by the Trouble Bubble, and then the Abyssal Voyage delivers Zenit a kill underneath the turret. Easy one there onto the Shen. As Dove doesn't even know that he's playing a team game by the looks of things. Terrify is going to land, and that's a special delivery on the kill for Umpty.
I like the hula hoop that Umpty did right before he just dogged down Dove right at the end. And now, this is only a 2K gold lead right now for KT. But if you look at all the lanes and what we talked about with the team compositions earlier and just the way that this game is going, it's looking very, very bad for SANDBOX. And we'll take a look at this. They call in the Stand United, and Fleek tries to lock down the Zoe with Dove's assistance, but Snowflower is there. Doesn't even matter that Smeb asked them to watch NALCS. And then after this, the Abyssal Voyage to dog down Joker. And at this point, I mean, I know this is going to sound really ridiculous maybe, but it really feels like the game's over. When you're SANDBOX with LeBlanc, a Sivir that's not intended to scale, you have the Aatrox that is just going to get worse as the game actually proceeds, at least against this team composition, and you have a Camille who's falling further and further behind when she needs to be ahead, and you're going to face double Mountain Drake. KT's just going to get the Baron, and it's going to be all too easy for them to close.
Well, I feel like you're exactly right. Almost purely because Fleek basically feels like he's not a champion anymore. Like, I mean, now that has gone so catastrophically wrong and Umpty has such an incredible lead, the Camille can't hunt for the Nocturne anymore because it's the opposite of what he should be doing. He should be trying to stay the heck away from this Nocturne that can possibly win every trade, unless you get a face check and Umpty forgets to press his spell shield button, but we know that he hasn't been making that mistake very often at all. He now has a stopwatch available to him also on top of his Warrior Enchant. So KT just have run of the map. And when you've got run of the map with an Abyssal Voyage and a Paranoia, I don't know, man. I just don't know how many options SANDBOX have. So I entirely agree that it's feeling very worrisome for them to try and get back. As Distortion going to be utilized there as BDD tries to throw out some more skills. And Umpty, he can just dive on top of anyone who has a low health bar. Oh, this counter gank positioning's really nice. Paranoia comes in. More as a deterrent, actually. That's just KT agreeing to disagree on the gank.
That's like when you get cornered in an alleyway.
Yeah.
And then your bodyguard shows up.
Yeah.
And they're like,
and then the other guy's bodyguard turns up, and they both pull out a knife that's about the same length, and you're like, oh, okay.
All right. Yeah, we just won't risk it. Yeah.
Yep.
See you later. Well. Anyways, now at this point, KT just under a 2K gold advantage. Mountain coming up in about a minute and a half. And Fleek actually ends up consuming the blue buff. So LeBlanc not going to have that available.
As punishing Dove for staying in lane while there was a skirmish at the Rift Herald. I'd do the same thing to my mid laner in solo queue. Probably wouldn't do it in the LCK, but that's alright. Seems to be an agreement taken and wanting to give Fleek as much of an ability to get back into this game as possible. Zenit going to go back home. We'll see how close to the Supercharger evolution he is. As our next item will most likely be the Rage Blade. And Berserker's Greaves being built up there. And we got the Recurve Bow. So Zenit just needs to finish off a couple of pickaxes and he will have that Q evolve. But I believe the Supercharger evolve is already in there. My mathematics is correct.
Oh.
And there's a Rift Herald start for SANDBOX on the top side as they move the old lanes around.
Yeah, this is 300 IQ. We're going to summon the Rift Herald. No minions around that are present to collide with this. That's going to tank the turret by itself.
And then the next mini wave is going to turn up, and they've got a man advantage and are going to be able to take down the first turret of the game, most likely, unless KT can do something here in mid. So we are going to have the Demolish proc, and the turret is going to be finished off, but second, so first turret gold is going to go over to SANDBOX, and yes, it got nerfed a little bit, but it's still an advantage that they are able to get, utilizing Shelly up there. Abyssal Voyage now towards the bottom side of the map. Rotations, rotations, rotations from KT Rolster.
And they're going to pick up a lot of key objectives. They lose the top turret, and it can be a nuisance to get that top tier 1 when it's so healthy, but picking up the mid tier 1 turret is so powerful for the vision that it often provides, and now it's going to be very difficult for SANDBOX, I think, to contest this if they would even want to try, but they don't even have an idea that it's being started and almost gone yet.
Yeah,
so KT, second Mountain Drake.
And this is the problem, right? SANDBOX have so much vision on the top side of the map because they wanted to take that outer turret, but the Dragon just spawns. KT has sole vision of the area. Double Mountain Drake means the easiest Barons in the universe, and they already had a pretty good composition for taking down the Baron anyway, with Nocturne and Kai'Sa doing a fair bit of damage. And even, you know, Tahm Kench and Urgot can tank it for a fair while. Urgot also doing a bit of damage himself. So this Baron is definitely a threat from KT already. But the gold is not anywhere near insurmountable for SANDBOX. It's just the compositions that are leading us to feel like there's not too many ways back in for SANDBOX Gaming.
And KT now, at this point, I mean, they're going to be content to wait for their second core items on all the champions. Urgot definitely wants to wait for his Righteous Glory. Zoe, I think, going to end up going Banshee's Veil. Okay, stand united and on fleek here.
Yeah, diving on forward. We've got the snare up, and Smeb goes golden underneath his turret, buying a lot of time, but doesn't have the Purge cooldown back up, meaning he will fall. Summit locks down that kill. KT immediately answering, though, grabbing the last remaining outer turret on the top side.
They're going to end up having to lose their bottom tier 1, but that was a much-needed kill on the side for SANDBOX, and they're definitely going to get a lot of value to help them try to come back into this game. You can see, though, mid is basically stonewalled, where nothing can get past the Zoe in mid lane.
Oh, hell no.
No chip damage, and they're advancing on for top tier 2. They're saying, hey, we're going to trade top tier 2 for bottom tier 2.
Well, Joker's going to come on over. Dove dives forward, but takes a full Q to the face from Zenit, who supercharges himself backwards. Spirit's Refuge is good from Joker, as Umpty needs to get devoured underneath this turret. A lot of damage done to that inner turret, but it isn't going to fall just yet. BDD's bubble is not exactly going to find the mark.
And ends up being
this control world.
A really big win, actually, for SANDBOX, and it comes at a very much-needed timing. Thought they were going to maybe drop the top tier 2 turret, but not quite. They're able to defend it with the taunt landed onto Umpty, making the turret aggro.
Yeah, the inner on the bottom side fell. I hadn't actually noticed that from SANDBOX. Nicely done.
So now, second core items completed for most champions. The problem is that SANDBOX, they're not in a position to try to force a Baron. And KT, with an Ocean Drake coming up in 2.5 minutes, they just have the luxury of basically saying, hey, we don't need Ocean, and even if you get it, it doesn't do anything for you. Yeah. We can just keep scaling up because you're never penetrating this mid-tier 1 turret.
And it also means they don't need to waste vision bottom side of the map either, so they can just focus on having soul vision around that Baron, jump over that pit, and try and start that one when they feel like they have the items in order to do so. Speaking of which, Banshee's Veil has been built up here for BDD as item number 2. He's not going to be getting locked down anytime soon, and Zenit is so incredibly close to that Ginsu's Rage Blade, where the Kai'Sa is going to be feeling really, really scary. Summit almost face checks Umpty, but just donates a control ward over instead of the 300 gold that represents his life. Actually, make it 500 as the bounty has been built up here for the Aatrox. Somehow. Summit, of course, pretty fantastic player himself, but the Urgot Aatrox matchup certainly feels a lot better for Urgot on this current patch, but at the moment, feels like Summit is ignoring that one.
The real Aatrox nerfs are definitely felt later on in the game where he can't heal back up off the minions inside the side splits.
Oh wow, Umpty almost just explodes. Doesn't have the itchy finger on the old spell shield button.
He'll right back
that
up.
W a little bit better, but yeah, Umbral Blades as well as the Smite is going to help him on the Raptor camp. He's ready to paranoia his way in.
Oh man, someone has to be really careful here.
Yeah, well, Infernal Chains is going to land as Smeb throws a Corrosive Blast in a very strange position, but he has to Umbrally dash to get himself out of there into that Raptor pit. KT with priority in the mid lane can get around towards this Baron pit and clear out this vision, which they need to do very, very soon. SANDBOX still with control ward vision all throughout that area.
Interestingly, SANDBOX actually now the ones with a gold lead as well.
Yeah, I know. We saw that graph just before. Somehow, based on that terrible turret trade that KT took, that felt like it looked okay. You know, Smeb falls down, but then they're able to rotate immediately towards the top side. You know, taking something on the other side of the map feels like the right play, but losing the inner turret just meant that it was all for SANDBOX.
And right now, SANDBOX trying to accrue a larger gold lead. Ocean, not the greatest of dragon spawns for either team. And SANDBOX, they're looking to get frisky.
Yeah, Supercharger is in there. Devour's going to be utilized, but immediately the Tahm Kench falls, and the Sivir picks up the Kai'Sa. Bottom lane now eradicated from KT. And they're shaking their heads. They don't know what the heck just happened.
Well, I think that Twitch chat probably knows they were cosplaying Aphromoo and Bang, standing all the way up in mid lane without any real purpose. They just get picked off and deleted. They got sandwiched like they were getting flanked by hyenas.
Yeah, man.
I don't even know what just happened to them. So they just popped in a second. And then at that point, KT cannot continue the fight whatsoever. Now, SANDBOX, they're going to pick themselves up in Ocean Drake. And if they can keep doing things like this, and if KT's going to keep being generous with handing them donations, then SANDBOX is definitely going to be able to pull really far ahead.
Yeah, and as you can see, the go button's pretty easy. Just pop the Sivir donkey whistle. And there was no response. I just feel like, you know, Shen's gotten to a point where he's feeling pretty good at the same time. And if he lands the taunts, if Joker's in the right spot after Ghost presses that R button, things feel good. But honestly, KT should never have let them get to that point.
I mean, why is Tahm Kench and Kai'Sa that far up in the lane? What are you hoping to achieve? You're not going to arbitrarily just start moving towards Baron. Yeah. You don't care about the Ocean Drake. The minion wave's not even on your screen yet. What are you doing? I don't know. I don't
Milling about.
I mean, KT didn't know. SANDBOX knew, though.
I mean, KT did know. They were dying.
SANDBOX was telling them to check their bank account. That's what was going on just now.
KT had a couple of members in the gray screen naughty corner after that one happened. Just thinking about what they did wrong. KT now, though, are going to be focusing on getting some vision around this Baron buff, because I feel like they've got to utilize these couple of Mountain Drakes in order to get themselves back in here, because they can just destroy that Baron extremely quickly. Ginsu's Rage Blade is now completed on top of the Blade of the Ruin King. Zenit is a Baron killing machine. SANDBOX not letting them have a very good time moving towards that objective. Smeb's moved over to a barrier, so doesn't have Smite from his unsealed spellbook. And he's waddling towards that bottom lane.
Do you think it's smelly?
Minions. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, if it's a smell book.
Right.
Either that, or it's like a book of like different herbs, something like that. You know, it's got like dried rosemary and basil and things like that. Like, that's a smell book that I could get around. There are other smell book ideas that certainly wouldn't be as good.
Do you think he's a botanist?
Maybe. Do you think you should stick to botany?
Is that what we tell him nowadays?
Oh no. I don't think we're there just yet. We're not there just yet. That was a bit too mean. KT need to do something, otherwise they might deserve some more mean things said. At the moment, it's not looking great. OnFleek has about all of the items towards his Guardian Angel, but couldn't afford the 100 gold to combine it, which is very, very sad.
Well,
he does finish it off just there, so waits a couple of seconds and gets himself his GA. So at least that's the Camille with a GA parody onto Umti, who already has his done on the Nocturne.
And there's a 2K gold lead right now for SANDBOX, but at the 26-minute mark, you would definitely hope to have a larger one. But if KT are going to just step recklessly forward like this.
Yep, they do it again, and that almost is a dead Kai'Sa. In the belly of the Tahm Kench is still going to burn down to the Ignite of the Shen, and already it's two already dead for SANDBOX Gaming. And KT, Rolster, they just can't team fight at this stage of the game. And it's just the Kai'Sa getting caught.
Yeah, they seem absolutely clueless on where to be standing and what the opponents need them to do. And we see this all the time from teams in every region, where they start doing what they want to do rather than what they need to do, or what the opponent doesn't need them to do.
Yeah.
You ask SANDBOX, hey SANDBOX, what do you want us to do right now? They're like, yeah, if you'd like
just wander up the mid lane and throw your 80 carry at us, please, if you don't mind. Snowflower eats a Shen as Joker is going to be the sacrificial lamb, looking to try and get out, but they just take the Baron. It's going to be the LeBlanc that picks it up, showing that there wasn't any 50-50 happening. And Umti didn't have flash, so couldn't get over the back of the pit. And they'll sacrifice Joker, and they'll pick themselves up a Baron And when it comes to trades, this is one that I know is worth it for SANDBOX.
Here we go. There's the Kaisa walking up to the wave before hers is even in the lane yet. Smeb, quick to accompany, and SANDBOX, no stranger to pounce on these mistakes from KT. And I mean, you have to give it credit. You gotta give credit to them. They're in position. They know what they want to do and what they have to do if they are gonna bring home this game. And they're doing it. And I mean, KT.
Yeah.
That coach is not looking.
No. Well, I mean, he's like,
he was motionless.
Well, why is the enemy AD carry inting into us? Like, why is this? I don't understand.
He's like, they're
Am
gonna
I supposed to
accuse us of
congratulate my
match-fixing.
team now? Like,
Yeah.
what's happening? No, we don't say that word on this broadcast, okay? We don't say that. As there's a world ender on the bottom side of the map. The world may actually be over here for Summit, but does go into that passive on Fleek and wants none of it as Umbral Dash gets him over. And Stand United is there. Summit eventually is going to get chomped down in that grinder, but he has a GA. He's taking a heck of a lot of time, and in the meantime, Ghost is taking in a turret in mid. Inner turret's already fallen. Top side of the map to Dove. And now on Fleek, looking to stop some back. Snowflower, in fact, is going to stop his own, and this may actually just be an example of Summit overextending on purpose.
Yeah, and they're just getting so much value out of it. You can see G-Host and Joker here in mid lane, almost able to raise this mid-tier 3 turret.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Dove up in top lane getting a lot of chip damage on that top tier 3.
Exhaust thrown out, but that was Smev, of course, with his unsealed spellbook. He's going to have that flash available relatively soon. And now, SANDBOX move back to this mid lane. The Baron buff is sorted out, and there's a teleport on Summit. He can come back in 10 seconds. And straight back into the fray, continue this. As OnFleek just puts the Baron on the bottom side. They're getting as much value out of this purple buff as they could possibly get. And SANDBOX Gaming, it's just so disappointing watching this game because SANDBOX made some almost mistakes that should not have ever been able to come back from. Right? Like, they almost suicided at the beginning of this, and then KT offered them a lifeline. They threw them the lifeboat, and that's just not what we've come to expect from our 2018 champions. Yes, it's not the same KT as what we saw last year, but it's a lot worse than we'd expect. You
could even argue that KT rolled the best dragons that they could hope for, outside of maybe an Infernal first.
Yeah.
But definitely Double Mountain, extremely scary, and they just did not know how to manage the side lanes and utilize it. And, you know, the chain reaction off that Smeb death in bottom lane, resulting in the 2 turrets falling, the loss of tempo, and then because of that, not being able to manage the side lanes properly, it's all just a chain reaction getting to this point. And, you know, 13 minutes into the game, I put hope into KT, and I guess this is what it feels like.
Well, Paranoia is going to be thrown down as Umti explodes. Redemption comes in for KT, but that's probably the most damage that they've actually done in this fight thus far, as Ghost grabs the kill onto Umti after he respawns from the GA. We got low health bars, but SANDBOX have already taken all the inhibitors. They're happy to take just a kill thrown at them. They'll go back, buy a whole bunch of items, and finish this game.
All right, well, now with the 3 inhibitors down, SANDBOX, they're just going to recall, maybe get some elixirs. Looks like some control wards being picked up by Summit.
Bloodthirster onto Ghost.
Yeah. And this game is all but over. Don't they both have a lifeline passive? Phantom Dancer and Bloodthirster?
No, Bloodthirster is not. It's Sterix, more of Malmortius, and Phantom Dancer.
Well, that's
Aren't
why
you
they,
a coach?
By the way, yeah. Now looking at this, and Nocturne ulted into that like I just walked into that Bloodthirster Phantom Dancer predicament, so not the best situation for KT. And
Umpty walked into a bar and said ouch.
Yeah.
I think.
Lights went out.
Mm-hmm.
Except it was for KT's team, as this is looking to be the Doom push.
We got double super creeps in every single wave. It's just Nexus turret standing between SANDBOX and a Game 1 victory here against KT Rolster. One of their last remaining matches here in the first round robin, looking to only fall to Griffin as Summit. They're throwing a lot of buttons at him, but World Ender just comes back off cooldown, and Umti goes golden, but is it actually going to be enough? The answer is a very easy one, and it's a no, as Dove grabs that kill, and now KT Rolster health bars are being decimated, and SANDBOX are able to sacrifice all that they need to. Summit doesn't go down to the passive. He's basically got no health, but he can still do damage to these Nexus turrets. Smeb finds himself as the last man standing, but he's not going to be standing for much longer, as he's going to be out of this game. Nexus